want to get perspective now on what we have seen today and this past 2 weeks and what we may see tomorrow. David Remnick, in addition to being editor of The New Yorker, he's also the author of 6 books, including the indispensable Lenin's Tomb, The Last Days of the Soviet Empire. So, David, you hear Matthew Chance talk about this meeting tomorrow between the foreign ministers of Ukraine and Russia. Obviously, we've seen some evidence of corridors that have been open. We've seen other violations of that, both sides blaming each other for that. Is there any evidence that you see that Vladimir Putin wants an end to this war at this point?
Not yet. I mean, let's stipulate that this is an invasion of a sovereign country for no reason at all, and it's been merciless and disgusting and brutal. So that's the thing that's most obvious. And yet we're in a situation where we don't want it to escalate to the point where Ukraine is decimated and just endless casualties in a refugee crisis that destabilizes Europe for the rest of our lives. We don't want to see that. And the ancient philosopher of war, Sun Tzu, once said that you need to build a golden bridge for your opponent, for your enemy, so that he can walk across it and retreat. And somehow, some way, Ukraine is going to have to devise, and above all Ukraine, the West can't do it for Ukraine, some sense of what can be conceded, as painful and horrible and unjust as it is, so that there's a negotiated settlement, so that this insane war, instigated solely by Vladimir Putin, can end, and the bloodshed can end. And these concessions will be enormously painful, whether it's recognizing Crimea finally as Russian territory or some settlement in the east of Ukraine. I totally recognize this is sovereign Ukrainian territory, but there's no sign yet that Putin is, just because he's suffered some military losses in some parts of the country, that he's going to just merely retreat. That's not him. That's not his history. It wasn't in Grozny. It wasn't in Syria.
Yeah. And I mean, you've certainly seen, we've all seen what the Russian military is capable of doing in Grozny, in Aleppo, in Syria, leveling Grozny, essentially, installing a thug as the leader there. Have you been surprised at the performance of the Russian military?
Well, I think Putin is surprised at the performance of the Russian military. What happens in an authoritarian regime, and Putin's regime is something that has become more and more despotic year after year, as it becomes increasingly isolated. It begins to believe its own nonsense. Fewer and fewer people come to the despot with contrary information. And he clearly thought he could waltz into Ukraine and in a few days' time either install a puppet regime or have them just give up. And Ukraine has proved itself under the leadership of Zelensky, and just the sheer bravery and resilience of the Ukrainian people. They have proved themselves capable, at least until now, of fending off the Russians. But let's not be deluded. Let's not be deluded. Yes, the attack on Kiev has been stalled, but Russia, through sheer brutalism, is making enormous gains in the south along the Black Sea. And given time, time is unfortunately on Russia's side in this military game, because there is not going to be a no-fly zone. There's not going to be a defense in the standard sense of NATO coming to its rescue as if it were an Article 5 country, a NATO member. And it will get, as horrible as today's news was, it will multiply and get much worse. That's who Vladimir Putin is. That's who he's been for a very long time.
I spoke to former CNN Moscow bureau chief Jill Doherty in the last hour, talked about the new Russian law criminalizing independent journalism. It is, I mean, this desire of Vladimir Putin to suppress accurate reporting about the war, Orwellian, not using the word war, you can't use the word invasion. What does it say to you about how he views his own grip on power right now, about his position now?
Well, a despot's grip on power is always innately unstable. It's always threatened from below, which Putin has always recognized. He's looked around the world and seen what's happened in the Arab world some years ago. He's seen what's happened in Georgia, in Ukraine, of course, and that feels like a threat to him. Certainly, when there were demonstrations on Bolotnaya Ploshchad, Swampy Square, he suppressed that. And he recognizes the threat from his coterie of lackeys around him. I think the West is hoping that you'll see defections from above and demonstrations from below, and Putin is making every effort, every brutal effort, to suppress the likes of Alexei Navalny, who's sitting in prison, or demonstrators who are arrested, or the independent press, which has been crushed. And he's very wary of anybody around him. And you saw that he made a show of it. He made a theater of it by broadcasting his meeting with the Security Council and humiliating anyone that had any contrary word or scintilla of doubt. And these, by the way, these are not dissidents. This was the head of his foreign intelligence service that he made a point of humiliating. Now, how long that can hold out, we'll see.
Yeah. David Remnick, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, Anderson. Thank you.
Every day we're in Ukraine, it becomes more and more apparent how important it is, in addition to all their other needs, for people here to simply be seen and have their voices heard. People want you around the world to know what is happening here. They want you to see it and hear it. They want you to hear their stories. Ukrainians with relatives living in Russia telling them what they're going through, only to be told by an uncle or a parent or a close Russian friend, no, that's not really happening at all. Imagine what that is like. So with that in mind, earlier today, I spoke with Kyiv's mayor, Vitaly Klitschko. Mayor Klitschko, what kind of supplies do you need in terms of humanitarian supplies?
We thank you very much for humanitarian help. We have right now a lot of food, and we receive also a lot of medication, medical supplies in Kiev. We need right now the peace in Ukraine, and but everything depends from Russians. As Russians have to go away, and in this senseless war.
We've seen civilians being attacked as they try to leave Irpin. Do you have any doubt that the Russians are targeting civilians?
Yeah, we have a lot of examples. For example, I'm mayor of Kiev and Gostomel mayor. Gostomel is a small city around 10 miles from Kiev, small city. The mayor of Gostomel bring the humanitarian help to the people, and the Russian soldiers shoot him and kill him.
There's still not agreement about the planes from Poland coming to Ukraine. How important is it to get planes?
We need the weapons. We're ready to defend our country. We stayed up front of one of the powerful army in the world, and that's why we need the planes also very much. It's the time we don't have a time to wait. It's minutes, it's hours, and that's why we need immediately the planes from Poland to Ukraine.
There were reports yesterday that the Russians were advancing on Kyiv a little bit from the east. Is there an area you are most concerned about?
The Russians make a pressure, and they come from the east. They lose a lot of soldiers and a lot of tanks. But I concerned, yes, of course, I concerned to any activities from Russian army. But we very proud of our Ukrainian fighters, warriors, real warriors who give the good answer for aggressors. And Ukrainian soldiers destroy the plans of Russians.
Finally, the two foreign ministers, as you know, are meeting tomorrow. Are you optimistic something may actually come from that?
We hope. Everybody hope it will be find a diplomatic solution in this war. I don't know. Just one way The Russians have to go away. It's difficult to find a solution if thousands of people already died. The infrastructure in our country destroyed. The economy of our country have huge damage. And by the way, we have a hope to stop the war, to stop to stop kill civilian in Ukraine. Every Ukrainian have a hope to stop the war.